Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. This is going to be a very short week. In case you haven't seen the community post, I unfortunately have managed to catch myself a bit of an ear infection, and talking hurts, so I did not get very much done this weekend, and so you're only getting a couple of emergency videos, but I figured the one that I really wanted to make was about the Black Großer Kurfürst, because I don't usually review black ships, but the Black Großer Kurfürst, well, I like the Großer Kurfürst very much, so I figured, you know what, I'll check it out. So this is it. This is the black version of the Großer Kurfürst. Now, generally speaking, GKs are, or black ships in general, are very similar to their tech tree equivalents, but they normally have a different set of ship skills and have a slight variance on their, or they're slightly improved on some minor stats. So let's begin by just comparing the two and seeing in what the difference lies here. So Großer Kurfürst being the tier 10 battleship line, not battle cruiser line on the German tech tree, and a very, very good ship. Gets 3 charges of sonar, 3 charges of precise aim, and 2 charges of the secondary overload. If you're not familiar with the secondary overload, it increases your range and rate of fire by 20%. And especially the range is quite interesting because it can make the difference between being able to hit a destroyer and not being able to hit a destroyer with your 150s. The Black Großer Kurfürst has gotten the Roma treatment. She gets a rapid reload and the precise aim, and has traded the sonar for a defensive AA. Additionally, she gets an extra repair kit, so you get 4 heals on this thing. Now, statistics-wise, the Black edition has a slightly better rudder shift and has a slightly better range on the main guns, but that's where the differences end. So, for all intents and purposes, they are exactly the same whole. But one major difference here is in the stats. So, how have I set the ship up? It's sort of your traditional secondary spec build, because that's kind of what you do in a German battleship, because that's what it's all about. You have the alternative of getting your armor slightly improved, but it doesn't. I don't think it actually improves your armor thickness. It just gives you a very slight factor on damage reduction and citadel protection, which you can or can't. You may or may not be able to use to great effect. It's not a huge difference. So personally, I generally prefer to go with the secondary gun specialization. But do note that you are not getting the secondary overload. I have put the historical camouflage on it. I don't know if there's a special, we'll have a look in a second. I don't know if there's a special camo for the tech tree GK, or maybe I just don't have it. There generally is. I don't have all of the camos on press always. But this is your standard battleship, battleship camo with hit points, range, dispersion, and damage reduction. I'll have a very brief look at the battle honors because people have been asking me. And it gives you titanium, I think. This is titanium. Yeah, it gives you titanium. So there you have it. Usually these are pretty much free. But let's have a very brief look at the camos on... yes, so there's a science fiction camo for the regular GK. It may be available for the black one, and I just don't have it. But I don't know. Usually, especially with ships that are brought in new, they might actually give you that. This is a much better camo than the historical camo. I would never personally sail with it because I don't like the look of it. But if you don't mind that, this is a significantly better camouflage than the historical camo, which is always very unfortunate that the weird-looking alternate camos are the better ones. Not happy about it, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, and it also probably gives you like the railgun tracers and all this kind of stuff. So setup-wise, otherwise the two ships are completely identical. So I've maxed it out. I've put premium consumables. And I have used the secondary battery mod 2, also on the black version. You could argue that you want to use the main battery mod 3 here, because this one is a little bit more on the main guns, because you get a main gun rapid reload rather than a secondary gun rapid reload and range increase. So that's not technically a completely terrible idea. You could also consider using the auxiliary mod, because this one here gives you range and dispersion. This one gives you range also on your AA, and this thing does get a defensive AA. That said, the AA values on this ship are not grand, so even with the def AA1, it's not going to be a massive amount of planes that you'll be shooting down. So I am very hesitant to call that one, but that's sort of what it is. Now, commander-wise, and I am going to have to, where is he? Yep, we'll reassign von Hipper here. Commander-wise, you got a couple of interesting choices. So I am sailing with von Hipper, who has a couple of legendary skills, which means obviously here I would be using the Sixth Sense skill, because knowing that you're being targeted is always very valuable. But on a regular commander, you might argue that instead of the legendary skills, you would want to get the battlefield support for an extra def AA and the air defense expert, which on the regular GK you would probably be taking victorious charge, and that's that. Also, on the normal Großer Kurfürst, you would not be getting fire supremacy because you already have 3 precise aims. You don't really need a 4th one, but instead the survivalist skill would be a good choice. And you would probably use recon skill, which you don't need on the black GK because it doesn't have sonar. Now here comes another interesting question. You do have the precise aim marksman plus skill, legendary skill on von Hipper, but you have 4 heals. So you could argue that instead of taking this one, you could go for a full HP tank build, and that's actually where I think. Hang on. Was it from von Spee? No, he did not actually have. I thought someone had. I thought one of the German commanders had an actual actual skills here in the HP tank, but I think there's too many of them. Yeah, you could use von Müller if you have him as an epic commander, because you get the repair kit cooldown time even further. And he also gets the reduced main battery reload. So he'd actually be not a bad fit if you have him for a black Großer Kurfürst. But obviously black ships work exactly the same way that the black ships work. Hang on, was it Share? Yes, Share. Okay, Shares get the survivalist plus. So you could also use Share on this one. That would work as well. Yeah, that would be a decent choice too for additional heal, especially with the full HP tank build, especially that it's a bit more into the long range setup. But anyway, for comparison purposes, I have played with von Hipper, and yeah. So what is the black Großer Kurfürst? Well, it's a GK with a reload, with a main battery reload booster, which puts you in a slight conundrum. Because you could be tempted to say, well, it's a more long-range GK then. No problem is the GK can't hit anything at long range because the dispersion is quite hilariously bad. And she doesn't get like a level 3 precise aim or something. But you can play a little bit more from mid-range in this, and you can play a little less battering ram head against the wall kind of style, and sort of more of a mid-range tank style. If you're more comfortable with this, you still have a good secondary range. So if we look at the full setup in the end, we've got a 19.5 second base reload for the very, very big guns that we have here, and we have a 7.76 kilometer range on the 150s and an almost 7 kilometer range on the 128s. So you just don't get the secondary overload. Instead, you get the main battery reload, which can make quite a big difference if you are capable of, doing more like a hit things really hard from mid-range playstyle. So it's a slight variation, but it's interestingly enough that I wanted to check it out. Right, so we'll see 2 games, one of them in the black GK and one of them in the regular GK. The regular one is my personal, but it's also with a it's the same setup. It's a fully maxed up with a maxed out von Hipper. So you get a bit of an impression what the difference is between the 2 of them. The first round, and you see why I'm picking this one, has a carrier in it, and we'll hopefully get to see how well the defensive AA is holding up there. But the enemy team consists of Großer Kurfürst, Minnesota, a Santander. So I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. I'll have to review that ship actually. I'll put it on the list. And Gearing Shima, standard setup. We do have a Smolensk on our side, so you know how the saying goes: the team with the most Smolensks wins. But we are playing Encounter, so a lot of how I'm going to play will depend on what my team is doing here, because you obviously don't want to just rush ahead and get yourself torpedoed, because while the Großer Kurfürst is a very, very sturdy ship, if you're getting hit by a Shimakaze, then that'll hurt. So I do have a St. Vincent and a Yugomo with me. So a lot of it will depend on what Yugomo is doing. If Yugomo is pushing, then I'll push with. If Yugomo is not pushing, then I'll play more carefully. Because Yugomo obviously can go scout for me. And Yugomo is not AFK. He does seem to be stuttering a little. So some connection issues there, but he is moving ahead. So I don't want to let the Yugomo run alone. But I will let him go first, and I will push with Yugomo, and I will provide some air cover, because obviously he's spotted now, and the enemy carrier is going to come in. It's a Japanese carrier, so the torpedo bombers are where it's at. But if I can soak up some of the damage, and yes, there's the Shimakaze. That is very unsurprising. He is sitting right there. I'm switching to high explosive just to find that there's the enemy Großer Kurfürst over there. And I'm still waiting for the dive bomber. Where did the dive bombers go? It looks like the carrier was not interested in actually sending them out. So Yugomo has spotted Shima, which is great. So I know that there are torpedoes in the water. Now one problem that I have here is that I don't know when they're coming, because I don't have sonar. So I do have to be a little bit careful here and expect Shima torpedoes to be in the water. Unfortunately, Yugomo is not reacquiring the Shima, and the carrier is not managing to actually spot him as well, because the carrier is busy flying into all the AA. So I am going to have to just vary my course and speed, and we've got the carrier spotted. That would be the work of the Yugomo. So unload the high explosive and then switch on the rapid reload and make use of the precise aim. Go the carrier. There come the Shimakaze torpedoes. Unsurprising. I'm gonna take a couple here, but because I have been slowing down a little, I've managed to at least avoid 2 of them. Shima's only sent 1 spread. There is Shima again, but I do want to get the carrier out of the way if I can, because there's no way I'm going to hit the Shima from here, because he is not in secondary range and I have no secondary overload, and that means he's now busy and he's now entertaining himself with Yugomo, which is sort of a fight that they can take. And I'm still not sure what the enemy carrier is up to. But I am assisting in the rapid disassembly of the enemy carrier. I just have to be careful in case the Shimakaze is dropping torpedoes on me. But if I can soak up the planes from the enemy carrier, that would be great. That would be lovely. So we'll use our first defensive AA. These are just the dive bombers for now, but it should hopefully last long enough to also hit the torpedo bombers. And these are Japanese dive bombers. So Yugomo, if you can, reacquire that thing. Okay, back to high explosive in case I can spot the Shima. There come the torpedo strikes, and yes, there's obviously a permaflood. But my damage control is almost off cooldown, so that's not a huge problem. And yeah, there's the carrier again. Carrier respotted. Damage on that. Shots out, and then back to the armor piercing, and rapid reload just in case the high explosive can't finish it off, because that's German high explosive and that doesn't do anything. And still have to be careful with the Shimakaze, who is lurking around here somewhere. But once the rapid reload has managed to reload my guns, and I want them reloaded before the carrier goes undetected, I can go and finish off the carrier and now start unloading at the Shimakaze while sailing away from him and taking a little bit more, soaking up a little bit more of the air damage from that thing. But it's not that the secondaries are bad or anything, but they don't have the same firepower as you have. And yeah, there come the Shimakaze torpedoes. These were pretty well aimed actually. I was hoping that he was going to aim a little bit further ahead. But it's okay, I'm taking 3, my Damecon's already almost off cooldown. You can take a lot of damage in a Großer Kurfürst. So Shima is once again being harassed by the Yugomo. I've got the HE loaded. And the carrier is no more, so hopefully the Yugamo has a slightly easier time, but it looks like the enemy team is threatening our left flank because obviously it's been abandoned. The carrier is asking for help. So I'm just confirming that. Roger, I'm gonna help out. I'm not sure what my team is doing back there. Oh, that's a großer Kurfürst. He's now very alone, so I can finish that one off no problem. And then we'll go and deal with the Shima because he's on low enough hit points. Yeah, that should do the trick. And there he goes. Okay, so now we can go back to high explosive and go after the Shimakaze, which again we don't know where the torpedoes are. So that's sort of the sonar. But we've shot 18 planes down, which is not bad actually. So I think it's not a terrible choice. The bigger problem I have with it is that the sonar is so useful. Because more often than not, I find myself in situations where I have to play cruiser in my großer Kurfürst. Because the cruisers on the team cannot be... Oh, Gearing is AFK. Okay, if he's sitting right there, then he's AFK. I mean, that's not guaranteed. I've seen people wake up, but we've won anyway. So worst comes to worst, I'll take a bunch of gearing torpedoes. But yeah, auto secondaries can finish off the gearing. Yep, there's the Shima torpedoes, and that would have killed me. But you need to kind of manually predict those, and you can't counter smoke screens. So if a destroyer decides to rush you, and yeah, that's what I'm talking about dispersion-wise. If a destroyer decides to rush you, then you can't counter the smoke screens as you could with a sonar on the regular GK, and you don't have the range on the secondaries quite as much as you do. But in return, you get the rapid reload on the main guns, which can be quite fun. Only that it's really hard to hit anything at range, as you can see. But once things get into secondary range, then you can. And yeah, Shima is not going to be reloaded. He's lost anyway, so he's being a good sport about it and is farming as much damage as he can. And we'll just finish him off, and that should be the end of that. Yep, there he goes. Okay, finished him off with the secondaries in style. So the defensive AA is not a bad thing to have. And the rapid reload on the mains as well is quite nice, but it is a slightly different playstyle. You still got very good secondaries, but not quite exactly the same as you have in the regular GK. So let's see how things ended up. Yeah, that's not a massive amount of damage for großer Kurfürst, but then again, we've been shooting at Shimakaze most of the time, if you don't count the carrier. The second battle is eerily similar, and there's method to my madness. So we are up again, we're on the same map, and we are up against a Nakhimov, Iowa, Sejong, and 3 destroyers, a Z-52, a Somers, and a Kitakaze. Somers is an extremely stealthy destroyer, so if I'm ever going to get to spot the Somers, then things get interesting. And we're starting at the exact same point, but this is my großer Kurfürst without the defensive AA. Instead with sonar and secondary overload. I have a Worcester and a gearing with me, so exactly same thing. If either of these is pushing the flank, I'm happy to follow. If both of them decide that they don't want to push the flank, then I have to be careful, because we're playing against 3 destroyers. I'm not counting the bot here. And the großer Kurfürst is one of those battleships that, except Italian battleships, can actually defend itself from destroyers quite well. There comes the carrier. And now that he's spotted the Worcester, he's probably going to turn around and... No, he's going for the Worcester. That is an interesting choice. I can't do an awful lot on the incoming wings, but I'm lending whatever AA I can have. If Worcester had slowed down a little bit, rather than rushing ahead and just stuck a little closer, we could have combined them. But yeah, the carrier wing has been utterly defeated. We see the Kitakaze. And there's an Iowa, so shots out. There might be torpedoes in the water from the Kita. Worcester has taken almost no damage. Carrier has lost all his planes. Secondary overload up, and let's start unloading at the Kitakaze over there, while the Iowa is bouncing harmlessly off my belt. See, this is the difference with the secondary overload. You can unload, and yes, Worcester has sonar. You know you have sonar, right? Main gun shot up. I think he just bumped into the Kitakaze. There's so much there. But we still got the secondary overload up, and it's not just the 150s that are making a difference here. Yep, there come the torpedoes. Worcester torpedoes. Destroyers have torpedoes. You know that, right? Yes, Worcester is aware of it. So let's help out against the Iowa here. And then we'll just try to soak up some of the damage. Might be taking some of the Somers torps here, but I think they don't do an awful lot of damage. And we've actually avoided them. So again, we are lending AA support. And it's not just the AA support, it's... yes, the Nakhimov is targeting me. Perfect. I want the Nakhimov to target me, not the Worcester. Drop the torpedoes on me, that's what I want. So I know that there's a Somers and a Kitakaza out there, and I know that the Nakhimov's out there. But the friendly carrier is busy trying to hold the other flank at home. And neither my destroyer nor the Worcester are particularly inclined at this point to do an awful lot about this and get the carrier spotted. So I have to slow down a little bit. Yep, there come some more torpedoes. It's probably Somers torpedoes coming in. And yes, I do have sonar, and that gives me an early warning of torpedoes, so I have avoided most of them. Precise aim up, and then we'll unleash at that Iowa. I'm saving my secondary overload here and just shielding the Worcester from the carrier strike. There comes the Somers. So Worcester, if you'd be so kind, and that's a good time now. Worcester, you've got radar, right? Worcester, radar, please. Oh, Worcester is damage farming the... As a cruiser player, this is just so triggering, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but no, there's a destroy. Yes, you know what? You deserve that one. You utterly deserve that one. There you go. I've taken care of the Iowa, but Worcester has taken all the Somers torpedoes, and that leaves me with a Somers. I'm on about half hit points, and there's the Z-52, and there's the Sejong. Sejong is almost dead. So I think carrier and battleship, yeah, the Lion has finished off the Sejong. Gearing has found his brave pills, and there's the Somers. Okay, so Somers is in the middle actually, he's not on the right flank, so we can push. And I am making myself useful shooting planes down, while the Nakhimov is not getting an awful lot done. Somers is coming around here. I would love to unload my guns before I change ammunition, so let's unload at the Z-52, just in case he's sailing in a straight line. Shots out, I think he's already turning, that's fine. And there comes the Somers. Gearing has spotted the Somers, so sonar up, just in case they are already, yeah, they are the Somers torpedoes, so Gearing gets an early warning. And I don't have the secondary overload anymore, because I've used them all up. But I can still make myself quite useful against that thing. And Somers, like I said, is a very stealthy destroyer. I just need to get into range. And, oh, there's the Nakhimov. Okay, so I can use the mains on the Nakhimov, who probably has run out of planes at this point. And I can use the secondaries on the Somers. And there might be more Somers. Yep, there are more Somers torpedoes. I'm already going to turn into those. But I want that Nakhimov out of the way if possible. Not going to damage on a single fire. And I have a heal coming. I've got my, what are you planning, Somers? Are you rushing? I think Somers is rushing, so I'm going to use, yep, there come some more torpedoes. I'm going to use my last heal, unload again at the Nakhimov. Now the sonar would have been useful. Unfortunately, I'm just out, so, we'll take the Somers on the chin, honestly. I don't think he's got enough torpedoes to finish me off, because I've still got almost 50,000 hit points. And if he's not outplaying me, but he's staying up, there come the Somers torpedoes. So now we'll just wait. Yep, taking them. Now we use the Damacon. And now you're out of torpedoes. And now what? Now what? Now Somers might have still torpedoes. I can't remember what the actual loadout of that thing was, but I still had the armor piercing loaded, and for some reason they all missed. But Somers is now a one-shot kill, and probably my auto secondaries can finish. Gearing gets him first. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, so very similar results, very similar battle, very similar game. One of the advantages for me, at least, is how many planes have we shot down? Now these were Soviet planes, 18 planes. Wasn't bad either. I would have probably been more if the Nakhimov hadn't run out, but I personally prefer the secondary overload just for situations where I need to deal with destroyers because of the range and reload improvements. That said, having an additional heal plus a rapid reload is not a bad thing either. It doesn't make the Großer Kurfürst a long-range ship by any means because the dispersion, meh. But if you find yourself in a position where you can't push because there are too many destroyers out there and you don't have a sonar, you can still actually make really, really good use of the main guns. And you have, it's a bit more of a mid-range großer Kurfürst, also with the defensive AA that lends itself a little bit to warding off incoming airstrikes. So definitely a good ship. Is it a good enough ship that I would say I would want one? I would say no. I think in general, for me, black ships are just too similar to their tech tree counterparts, and the power of the großer Kurfürst is in the secondaries often. So if you're playing one at range, even the black großer Kurfürst, I think you're wasting a lot of potential on this ship. But having a rapid reload and getting a couple of seconds shaved off the main batteries is an interesting proposition. And the defensive AA allows for a slightly different playstyle, but all in all, I think they're still pretty similar, which means it's a very, very good ship. Don't get me wrong. If you don't have one and you want one and you don't want to grind the German tech tree line, then sure, by all means. But it's a black ship at the end of the day. It's very similar to the tech tree. And that's it for me today. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. And I'll see you next week, hopefully with a little bit more content once I am feeling somewhat better. Anyway, that's it now. Bye-bye.